You are listening to the Cigar Noise Boys. My mother was a tailor. She sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
I should have technically pronounced New Orleans to rhyme with jeans.
Nolans. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
I have no idea, man.
I'm terrible with like.
You guys have to get this one.
All right.
Okay.
Now, the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time he'll be satisfied is when he's all drunk.
It's not Kenny Rogers.
No. Wow.
That's where I was thinking.
House of the Rising Sun, the Animals.
Oh, there you go.
Never heard of that.
No, you got to be kidding me, man.
What kind of...
First of all, it's Mardi Gras. That's why I picked the song. It's in New Orleans.
Good call.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Pat Tuesday.
Do you guys normally celebrate Mardi Gras, or is Mardi Gras celebrated around you?
No, I don't. I mean, they have those donuts, wherever you call them, but it's not a big thing up in Wisconsin. What do they call them? Yeah, the store with the
like king cakes?
No, they're like
beignets.
I don't know. I think it's like
that's French.
Beignets.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. I don't. It's not a big thing up here, is it? By you, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, on a general term, Scottsdale likes to party and will find any reason to do so. I can't say that I've ever known of a big, Fat Tuesday Mardi Gras party in the Phoenix area. Now, that said, we do have some, southern restaurants that'll maybe do something special, but I can't say it's like, we're not rolling floats down the I-10. So
makes sense. What's up, everybody? Cigar Noise Boys here. This week with Patrick Lagreid of Halfwheel. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
So, Patrick, first of all, Tyler said you've met once. Is that true?
I was going to say, Patrick, I met you in passing at the 2019 trade show. I was a lot heavier, and I was with Todd McNett from.
Okay.
It was just in passing, real quick, and I don't even know if I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Todd introduced me, but this was a long time ago. I look a lot different, but that's the only
Todd's
interaction.
Friend,
yeah, Todd. He's the Impact Force rep. He's based out of Minnesota now, so he does Tatuaje, Foundation, Patina. My father. So Todd's. I just talked to Todd yesterday for about an hour. He's really
nice. Well, he's like I say, he's very much missed out here in Phoenix, and is a great guy. Ran a great shop in Churchill's, and I literally cannot say enough good things about Todd. So next time you see him, give him my best, please.
I will.
Thank you.
And Patrick, since you don't know us too well, if Tyler were a cigar nerd, I would be a nerd novice.
Okay.
So any cigar-related questions probably coming from him, and I'm just going to be on for the ride and ask off-the-wall questions.
I can handle it.
So you're at is this at your Cigar Mechanic? Now he's a broker, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this is Brandon Wells.
Okay.
Otherwise known as a Cigar Mechanic. He's been a good friend of mine, easily one of my best friends for the last, 6, 7, 8 years now. And so in an interesting turn of events, so if I was doing this normally, I would be in my apartment in downtown Phoenix, and I would be out my balcony because unlike 70% of the country, we're not under snow right now.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really nice day. It's like 65 or something. A little breezy, but there's tons of sunshine to go around. Unfortunately, the building I live in decided to go smoke-free as of January 1st, so I can't smoke cigars there. And so Brandon, again, one of the most genuine people I know, so he built a lounge, like a cigar lounge, onto his house. And so it's ventilated, it's indoors, it's the whole thing. So he lets me come up here, use it for doing reviews and stuff like that. And then it was actually in here that we did the top 25. Charlie and Brooks, who are my business partners, we took the signs down. But so I did the top 25 and the packaging awards from here because he has his own podcast as well. So he's got the whole setup. I'm in the process of trying to buy a house. Long story short, I thought it would have been in there by now. Paperwork and details and COVID and everything else you want to throw under the sun. It hasn't happened yet. It's like I have the place picked out. I just need him to sell it to me. And it's just like, okay, guys, like you've seen the Bender memes are like, take my money.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally standing there going, please take my flipping money, sell me this house, and let's just get on with it. So yes, that's sort of the whole long and short of it.
Yeah, I should have hit you up or Brandon up too, because he's one of my really good friends is Mo from Patina. And Brandon is I believe his broker out there. But it's
correct, yeah.
It's kind of weird when you're traveling, and especially like if you don't know people with COVID and stuff, you don't want to like, hey, I'm here. You want to meet up for a cigar.
Here, entertain me.
Yeah, or it's like, well, I don't know you, and I don't, so like when I was down there,
I'm not even getting together with some people I know, so don't feel too bad.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I didn't reach out to you or Brandon. Cause I have heard that he does the Sunday night, like kind of herf thing down there.
Yeah. So it's funny. That's how we actually met. So there's a shop up in North Phoenix that I used to go hang out at before I was sort of doing the half-wheel thing. I was writing for another site, and I'd go up there, and it was like my girlfriend at the time worked sort of up there, and so it was kind of convenient to go and hang out there, smoke cigars, get a little work done, whatever. And so Brandon was, as the cigar mechanic name I give away, used to be a mechanic. So he owned his own shop, worked for a few other places. And I remember he came into the shop, and the guy that worked there was our mutual friend. That's how we got to meeting each other. So Brandon says to me, hey, we do this thing every Sunday night called Sunday Night Blues Garage. You should come over. And my initial thought is, I don't play an instrument, nor do I sing. And so, like, I like blues music. Hell, I love blues music. I don't play it. So I said, well, like, and I'm that introvert that's like, you really gotta, you gotta let me warm up to you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and then he goes, so I kind of played it off or whatever. And he goes, oh yeah, like we don't play blues. We listen to the NPR station out here that has blues on at 6:00 on Sunday nights till like 10 or 11. And we just sit in the garage and smoke cigars. And so that's how we got to know each other. And like I say, I would never, like, I don't like using the term best friend or whatever, but he's certainly in my most inner circle of good, close friends. And, it's funny. We were talking the other night. He goes, I was doing, he was doing something either on a podcast or something. He goes, it's crazy to think about, like 8 years ago, we were talking about cigars and you were trying to teach me the difference between this and that and a wrapper and a this and whatever the case may be. He goes, and now I'm sitting here repping them, trying to do the same thing for consumers or retailers or people who work in the store, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see how that friendship has developed. And now I'm sitting here mooching in his lounge. So while he's out selling cigars like he should be.
Has Phoenix always been this, like, I'm trying to think of like a
Mecca.
Yeah, like a cigar, like, dude, I hit up I think 6 shops. I hit up Fine Ash, Owl Ear, Cedar Room, Ambassador, Embargo, and I think that's it. And that's just like, that's a tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's 60 more shops.
You could spend 2 days doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
Has it always been that way? Oh, Big Sticks I hit up Big Sticks.
Yep. So I can't give you the always answer because I've only lived here for 11 years. So I moved down here in November 2009. I grew up in Seattle, and short of college in San Francisco, Seattle's basically my home until moving here. What I can tell you is that, so I used to work in radio and was the director of operations for the Seattle Mariners broadcast network. So I used to come down for spring training and stuff like that for a week. And when I grew up in Seattle, I'll give you a couple things. So number one, there was probably one, maybe two cigar shops in Seattle, which is like the 12th biggest city in the country.
Yeah.
Secondarily, you can't smoke in stores. There's no lounges. You have to smoke. You can't smoke within 25 feet of any building unless you're on Native American land. So if you want to go out to a casino and let's say you're kind of in downtown Seattle, just for those who are listening in frame of reference, you're probably 40 minutes east and 40 minutes to an hour south to find a Native American land with a casino on it that may have a cigar lounge. Because that's the other habit. There's a lot of casinos that don't have cigar lounges, and as we all know, cigarette smokers run casinos.
Yeah.
So when I would come down here, I would always take a day or two, and I would literally start on one side of the valley and just like hit every shop I could find. And so what's that attributable to? Well, number one, we have very low cigar taxes. It's about 22 cents per stick.
Nice. So
I think it's in the bottom 10 in the country in terms of cigar tax. So that helps the cause, because, you know, it's not crazy to buy a cigar in Phoenix and think you're getting ripped off, as opposed to like, you know, Utah or California. For some people. Exactly.
Represent.
It's, you know, it's not Florida, it's not Texas, it's not Pennsylvania, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, we have a 50 cent. We have a 50 cent cap.
Right.
So that's not bad either, but yeah.
Yeah. And so that helps. Secondarily, Phoenix is also a really wide spread out place. So I think you can make the case to have a lot of cigar shops, because how far do you want to drive to go to a cigar lounge? And so there's that part of it. Number three, the weather is generally phenomenal out here. And, you know, yes, does it get cold? Absolutely. Now, is my definition of cold now a lot different than a lot of other people's? What I tell you is anything under 70 is like chilly to me now, because I am completely and utterly spoiled. But you have a climate that, for the most part, works for smoking cigars, whether it's indoors, outdoors, golf. I mean, we have 200 and something golf courses. We have, you know, all this different stuff that allows for cigars to sort of gain traction. Prior to the last couple of years, we also had tons of resorts, and all the resorts allowed you to smoke cigars. Like, you know, they'd have a designated area. The Biltmore used to have a humidor. Element, or what's called, there was a Sanctuary, I think, had a humidor. I don't know if they still do, because it's 2021 and times change and sensibilities change and stuff like that. But like, all the good resorts had humidors. So like, if you just wanted to go and hang out and have dinner at the Biltmore, which is a classic resort in Central Phoenix, you could go have dinner, you go to the humidor, you could bring your own, go get a cocktail, you're sitting out by the fire pit enjoying a cigar. And then I think the fourth part of it is that Phoenix is, during the winter, a very transient city. I've heard estimates that upwards of a third of our population leaves during the summer months.
Oh, wow.
And so I think you have a lot of people that are coming in, and it's already a big city. It's the fifth biggest city, or fifth biggest metropolitan in the country, which is really crazy to think about. It's like, you know, you go to New York, LA, Chicago, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and then Houston's right behind it. And I'd have to remember where the other ones are, but it's a surprisingly big city, even though it doesn't feel like that, because our downtown was never developed in the sense of, we're not Manhattan, we're not LA, we're not San Francisco, we're not Dallas. We're not those cities that have traditional big downtown areas, but it's so spread out. And you have a lot of, you know, we just call them snowbirds, because that's what they are. They come from everywhere. Yep. And so a lot of those people, you know, they may not live in a place where they can smoke cigars all the time, because they're in Chicago, or they're in Seattle, or they're in Toronto, or they're in wherever. And when they come down, they enjoy the cigars, and they enjoy the culture, and they enjoy all that stuff. So again, sort of a long answer. I don't know if it's always been that way, but it's certainly a nice mix of ingredients that creates the opportunity for it to be a very ripe hot spot for cigars. And I think right now we're somewhere in the 40 to 50 store range, somewhere in there. what I would consider the greater valley, you know.
Well, and then like another great market is Dallas, and that's where Brooks and Charlie are. So like if you guys had one more
Correct.
member, throw them in Florida somewhere, and you guys
We're gonna
got
put 'em
all
in
the made.
Yeah, our what's funny is so our fourth kind of contributor is a guy named Brian Burke, who doesn't write for us on a regular basis, but he's still part of our top 25 panel, and he helps us with IPC or now PCA, but he lives just outside of Orlando.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
So it's like, bro, if I can get you in Miami, maybe a little bit better, but
yeah,
I'll take where you're at right now. So
because it's like it also seems like Phoenix, like every week there's somebody, a cigar like sales manager or face of a brand traveling. Like when I was down there, Terrence Riley was there from Aganorsa. The week after, Casey Hogan from Crux was down there. And that's like, you know, I mean, pre-COVID, like you probably had like 3 or 4 people there. I think Jack Tarano's coming down soon.
he's out, I think this weekend maybe or something. So before I started writing for Halfwheel, I was a national cigar columnist for a site called Examiner.com, which doesn't exist anymore. But
I've heard of it.
so
I think,
wrote,
yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote. It was this idea of like being a hyper local site. So they had lots of local versions, but then they also had national versions that would sort of plug in to the local sites as well. So I wrote the Phoenix Cigar Examiner column, and then I wrote the National Cigar column. And as part of my Phoenix Cigar column, I would always keep a calendar of like all the upcoming events, and it would not be uncommon to have 4 cigar events on one night. So it was like, who did you want to go see today? You know?
Yeah.
And part of that is, you know, it would always like, because we're close to Vegas, we're close to LA, we have a huge density of shops out here. I think we move a fair amount of volume. We have some decent online retailers as well. So that helps to sort of kick up the volume. I've always been a little surprised that maybe it's not better, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I can think of just off the top of my head 4 shops that have online presence. One that's been established for a long, long time. 2 that have come up recently and are doing a lot better, and the 4th who sort of launched right as the pandemic started to set in. It's sort of accelerated everything.
Is that like Cigar King and then Cigars Daily, yes. TNT?
Oh, so, gosh, shoot! So now I'm up to 6. I even take that back. So like Cigar King was the original like heavy hitter.
Yeah.
So Cigar King launched actually. So Mitchell Hirsch's father, quick story, was a discounter in Chicago, and
yeah, there's a shop. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
And so Mitchell convinced his dad to let him put a humidor in the shop. And then at some point, I want to say it was like 99, although don't quote me on this, and I'm probably missing the numbers. Mitchell moved out to Phoenix and actually to Scottsdale, and he found a warehouse right next to the Scottsdale airport. And this is right as .com sales are starting to become a thing, right? So he starts this shop, calls it Cigar King, and I think his dad's shop was called like Discount King or something like that. So it was a playoff of that. Starts selling cigars online. It becomes so big, he has to like call in friends to help him out. And so the old, as I understand this, the old trade-off used to be, well, come on in, we'll watch football on Saturdays, and you guys help me box up orders. And then that became, well, shoot, why don't we just hang out down here while like eat the rest of the week, you know?
Yeah.
Let's turn into a retail shop. And so then it became a retail shop, and now he has AZ Fine Time, which is a watch retailer that's built into the store.
Okay.
He has a shaving cream and like men's skincare kind of thing that's built into the store. Separate business, but it's all under the same roof. And then they still run, obviously, a traditional retail shop for cigars. And then if you go across the parking lot is the warehouse for the online component, effectively. So you have them, and then you have. So I was originally thinking of Fox, Fine Ash.
Oh yeah, Fox. Yeah.
Ambassador started right around the pandemic, and then you have Zeal and Cigars Daily, and I'm probably missing somebody, and I feel terrible because I always feel like I'm on stage at the Grammys or the Academy Awards, and it's like, who are you forgetting to thank?
I know. Scallywags has an online presence. Yeah. Yeah.
I know Embargo is trying to get an online presence going. I like, and Churchill's doesn't have an online presence, but you call them and they'll send you anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why this is a pretty vibrant cigar community. Especially now, the only thing I would say about that is, except during the summer, like nobody's coming here during the summer months because A, it's hot. B, our summer is when the rest of the country is enjoying nice weather and actually doing stuff, So, and like, again, who wants to come to Phoenix when it's 115 degrees? So,
yeah, I picked the wrong week. I think it was like in the 40s. I brought a whole bunch of shorts, and I'm like, I was freezing my ass off. Patrick, are you smoking anything right now? I
am. I actually I'm smoking a San Cristobal Revelations. So I don't know. I know this is an audio feed, but I am blessed to have way more cigars than I ever need. So my aunt and uncle usually hit me up for like charitable donations for certain things. And inevitably, when I'm going through a box or a bag or something, I'll go, oh, man, I haven't seen that cigar in forever. And that's just what happened to spur me to pull this one out. So
I just finished up a Tatuaje Escaso in the Regio size, and now I'm firing up the War Bear.
Oh, nice.
Don, what are you smoking?
I'm giving it a second try to the Jason Dumont, the small batch exclusive. I think this is actually my third one, better than the first two by far. So maybe it just needs some time.
You guys reviewed that one, right?
I think Charlie reviewed it. I'd have to. I'm assuming that was directed to me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I believe Charlie reviewed it. It's, again, we don't ever speak for each other's reviews. That's one of our big firm policies. So all I can say is that what you read on the site is effectively Halfwheel's view of it. I think the only thing that we all have sort of collectively wondered is, how is that Jason Dumont line going to be different than what Warped is?
Yeah.
I mean, is it the La Tellier Tatuaje split kind of thing? Is it, again, just what is that actually going to be? And again, I have not had the chance to smoke it yet, so I'm sort of in the dark on it. But
also, I think the Jason Dumont from the drop.com was different than the small batch. I think the small batch had a Maduro wrapper. I have to go back and see which one.
I do think you're right on that one. So
yeah, it's a little confusing, the drop thing and what's available at retailers. And like originally,
Cloud Hopper is different too from Warped.
That was his brother, but now he distributes it. So, but I forgot what he called that one. What that brand's called, it's Cloud Hopper. I forgot what the company name is, and I just totally lost my train of thought when I was asking about cigars.
No, and I'll tell you, so one thing, just like people always say, have you smoked this yet? Have you smoked that yet? I think what people forget is 90% of my cigar smoking agenda is not set by me. It's basically set by the site and therefore set by Charlie with some variances. So I probably smoke maybe 4 cigars a week that are of my own choosing. The rest is basically, I'm always working on a review. I'm working on something for top 25. There's all my agenda is basically set by the site. So I don't get a chance to necessarily go out and just go, I'm just going to spend the day smoking everything that's not on my agenda. Because right now I'm trying to work ahead for the coming weeks because spring training is starting and I also work in pro baseball. So my March is pretty much booked. So,
because I went back and I listened. I first got the idea of asking you to come on as I saw you on Tim's show, and I thought you did a great job there. And then I went back and I was going to re-listen to it, and then I saw you on this Down to the Nub, and I listened to the one you just did with Brandon when you guys smoked the Laranja.
Right.
And you said that you use probably 90% of them are predetermined what you smoke. Dom does reviews for small batch on the blind review.
Okay.
So that's kind of interesting too. Do you have so you said you do a lot of your reviews now in that area you're at now, right? You don't do many at lounges ever?
No, I will almost never review a cigar in a lounge. for a couple of reasons. So number one, you've got cross-contamination of other people's smoke and things like that. And, you know, our biggest thing is to try and maintain as consistent of an environment as possible to give all the cigars that we smoke as close to a similar baseline at which to operate. So I will basically never review a cigar in front of other people. I will never review a cigar in a lounge. Now, does that mean I've never done it? No. There's been times I've had to do stuff for end of the year and it's been freezing out here. And so I've gone to a lounge and sort of sequestered myself off in the corner. It's also kind of awkward to like have to bring your camera and do all that stuff. And then the other half is the conversation piece. Like inevitably someone's going to probably want to start a conversation with me. And then it's like, well, shoot, the cigar went out because you wanted to know about the blankety blank and the this and the that and what's going on with the FDA. And then it's 45 minutes later and I'm having to relight the cigar, and that's not fair to the cigar. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everything is done in as
controlled
and isolated is probably the wrong word, but I will say like controlled and sort of isolated environment as I can get it.
Do you listen to music or put a movie on, or are you just kind of focusing almost 100% on the cigar?
I would love to say that I can single task and just smoke a cigar. That is by far not the case. I might listen to some music, but I try and listen to stuff that is at the very most background music. So like, you know, stream some jazz or something without lyrics, or I won't watch a movie. I won't read a book. I'm not going to pretend that I don't look at my email at times, because if I didn't, then I'd have 400 emails. And as much as as much as we do cigar reviews, we're also in the news business, and I can't afford to not be looking for press releases and other news and stuff like that. I try and avoid getting into the Instagram death scroll and stuff like that. I try and give the cigar as much attention as I can. So within the reality of that it's 2021 and we're all programmed to multitask now, how much can I sort of just give the cigar as much attention as possible?
And then I noticed that, so 1 year, I forgot what year, I should have it written down, but Fine Ash had that, the Quesada, the barber pulled, that was the #1 cigar of the year. Correct. Is that something that you sought out, or was it something that as a team you guys sought out to review that cigar, or how'd that come about? And then also that kind of ties into the Joya de Nicaragua numero uno.
Sure.
If you want to.
Yeah. So in regards to, our reviews pretty much all stem from our news policies, which is we will write about and cover, store exclusive sizes of existing lines. So, the Quesada Reserva Privada Barber Pole had come out in 3 sizes, and Fine Ash had a really good relationship with Quesada, and they got a Corona Gorda version of it. I think we might have reviewed the Toro, though don't quote me on that. But effectively what happens is, so we'll get a press release or we'll get wind of something, we'll write a story about it, and then if it seems like it merits being reviewed, we'll add it to a list that we maintain on our project management software. Okay. And we're always kind of shuffling and revisiting the list and saying, because, we don't want to give the same manufacturer 12 reviews in a year, because we only have so many slots. And we want to try and spread it out, and that means manufacturer, brand, factory, country, whatever the case may be. So we're all, and then again, sort of interest, but interest is a relative term. And we can get into that in a bit, because that actually becomes a really interesting thing when you're looking at like top 25 lists and how some cigars seem to end up on those and they don't on others. So we got the story about the Fine Ash Corona Gorda, and somebody brought it up as like, hey, we should review this. I don't know if I went out and picked them up or we just ordered them online. I don't know how we got them somehow. I think I might have done the review, the initial review, and then that if it gets over a 91, then it becomes a finalist for Cigar of the Year. There's the process for that, which we can go into if you want. And it scored really well through all 4 of our reviewers, and it ended up getting #1. Numero Uno was much the same thing. So our sort of threshold is, there's like this commercially available threshold that we basically is like a very low threshold for whether or not we'll consider something. So Hoy de Nicaragua had this cigar that had been used for its ambassadors, diplomats, gifts on behalf of the country. They started releasing it as a event-only cigar, which we do consider eligible for top 25. We got some. I was the one that did the review, and I was utterly blown away by the cigar. I thought it was just phenomenal from front to back. And so then that means, again, it got, I don't remember what it got.
94.
Did it get 94?
Yeah.
So it gets 94, qualifies for top 25. Everyone else smokes it. They score it, total them up, do the math, and it ended up winning. So, we're sort of unique in that regard, in that we'll consider store exclusives. We'll consider event only. We'll consider $500 cigars. We'll consider all these things for our cigar for top 25 that I can almost guarantee you would never make it on the vast majority of other publications lists.
Yeah, I agree. If it's a good cigar, it's a good cigar. I don't care, like you guys, I think it was Charlie who made a good point. You guys had 4 Tatuajes on your top 25. It's like some of these lists, they won't have the same brand on there.
Right. You get one slot for your.
Yeah. Well, if it's a good cigar, I don't care if it's a shop exclusive, if it's a line extension, or if there was 200 boxes made. If it's a good cigar, that's my opinion. I agree with that.
No, I mean, this was a really interesting year in that regard, because not only did you have Tatuaje getting 2 spots. Well, actually, I'm sorry, getting 4 spots. No. Yeah, 4.
Karloff.
1.
Yeah.
Black Label HC, TAA. No, they got 3.
3, okay, yeah. The Karloff, the TAA, the Black Crack, and maybe it was only 3. Right?
I believe so. Anyway, I'll look it up. But what was interesting is not only did they get multiple spots, they got 1 and 2, and they got 3 in the top 10. So and Charlie and I maintain this is like, why would you punish a company for having a great year? Like, why would you do that? And I understand, like, maybe you need to keep your advertisers happy, or you just feel like, well, we want to spread the love around. Look, we're not here to sell cigars. We're here to give objective, educated opinions on what we're seeing and what we're smoking. And you know what? Like, if Tatuaje and my father happen to be just on fire this year, good for them. Because you know what? Like, I can also give you factories that are very well known, that are well known for their tobacco, that didn't put anything on the top 25 this year. And maybe had one that was even eligible for top 25 out of the 32 cigars, I think, that qualified. So like, we're not trying to game the ratings. We're not trying to game the results. If you put out great cigars, good on you. Thank you for doing it. And you're going to get rewarded for it.
I think Tyler brought that up because he wanted to pat himself on the back. We did our own top 10 list with a few other guys, and we had some repeat brands as well.
Yeah, so I looked it up. Yeah, 3 in the top 10, and then you had a Fonseca, so another Pepin.
Yeah. My father made, yeah. It's always like you do so much when you're getting into the writing that you're, between writing and photographs and walking through doing our rehearsals for the live shows and everything. It's like, by the time you're done with with the Friday live show, the top 25, it's just like every piece of information in your brain just like starts oozing out your ears. You're just like, I don't want to think about this anymore, because it's been nothing but everything I've thought about for the last, 4 weeks. So
for the top 25 article, it may have said in there, I know for your individual reviews, you'll list the number of cigars smoked for that review.
Right.
So when you're each individually smoking those cigars that one of you rated above a 91, do you have a set number of sticks that you have to go through, or is it just case to case?
So it's one per person if you were not the original reviewer of it. So
okay.
We always are trying to refine our process. And so a couple of years ago, we made the change to try and get, if a cigar gets a 91, the other people who didn't do the actual review are supposed to smoke it within about a month of the review. Because what we were finding is that, so let's say that cigar X gets, a 91 or 92 in January. And either we're slow sourcing more of them, or there's just not a deadline, or whatever the case may be. So let's just say I don't happen to get around to cigar X until November. Well, now that cigar's got 10 months of age sitting on it. So it's not the same cigar that the person who smoked it originally got. So that's something that we refined. It's also to try and lighten our load at the end of the year, because when I talk about going to smoke cigars at lounges, a couple of years it was like, okay, I've got 6 I got to get through in the next 2 days. And so I'm going to, and it's 35 degrees outside or whatever. I mean, like I say, anything under 70 feels like the back of the refrigerator to me. But so that was that was a twofold change. I think it's produced much better results, because now we're all getting a much closer experience to what the person who actually smoked the cigar got.
It's got to feel really like rewarding that, you have this event only cigar, you rate it high, the other guys on the team rate it high, it's your number one, and then because of you guys, it's now available to everybody. I mean, that's got to be a really cool feeling,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the one, and I don't remember how it placed on the top 25, but the one that really sticks out was a Vega Fina, I think it was a Siete Años Reserva, something or other. So Vega Fina is part of the Altadas Imperial portfolio, but it doesn't usually see a lot of U.S. releases. But we have a really good relationship with the Spanish distributor, because it tends to do well in Spain and Germany and kind of Western Europe. And so they've been really good, and they help us get cigars. And I remember smoking it and going, oh my God, like this is phenomenal. And I don't remember what time of year it was. We can call it October or whatever. And it got like a 91 or 92, and it finished pretty decently on the top 25. And sure enough, at the next trade show, hey, we're doing 3,000 boxes of this. And again, like, not that I would ever think that. And like, I am never going to take credit for Hoya de Nicaragua deciding to make that diplomatic event only cigar into not just a quasi-regular production release, but then to also add 2 sizes to it.
Yeah.
That's not me. They knew it was a great cigar.
No.
But I think it's interesting to say, because what you have to remember too is that there are people in factories, master blenders, production teams, who may have never ever been to the United States. They're trying to guess what's going to work with the American market. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then every once in a while you'll find something that's like, oh yeah, we made this, we think it's good. And then you get to somebody in the US or wherever, and it's like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. I sort of equate it to like David Hasselhoff singing in Germany. Like, they love him over there. I could take or leave listening to David Hasselhoff sing a song, but for whatever reason, like, the Hoff rules Germany.
Don't hassle the Hoff.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you're never sure like what's going to be that one that hits. And sometimes that's in beer, or it's in music, or it's in it's one of the things, like, people say, well, how do you go viral when you're doing a social media post? You know how you go viral? You throw 100 things against the wall and you see what sticks, because if there was a formula, everyone would do it right now. But for some reason, something's going to resonate with somebody, and then in terms of a lot of somebody's in groups of people, and then it catches fire. I look on paper, the Hoya de Nicaragua Numero Uno seems to be very close to the Classico line, which is one of their original core lines. It's not even really sold in the U.S. It's sold.
No, I tried to order it after you guys.
It's like a catalog exclusive, and they sell a lot in Europe. And for whatever, like, I don't think the Classico line was gaining a lot of traction. The market seemed to be shifting towards bigger, fuller bodied pepper pepper or spice, blow your face off, blah, 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 blah. And then you go, wait a minute, guys, there is something that is still from Hoya, and it is refined and elegant, and just, it's so not Hoya in terms of what we all think of it, because I still think of the Hoya ad that when they were doing Dark Antonio, whatever that one, I always forget the name of it. It's like, it's strong as balls. It's like, yeah, you guys can do that, but you can also do some other stuff really well too.
Real quick, while we're kind of talking about international cigars,
Sure.
Tyler, I know you saw this. Indiana Ortez, who blended the Psycho 7 Nicaragua, posted a cigar for, I don't know if it's called Lampert, and I have to double check. It's for some lounge, I want to say, in Norway. I'm gonna have to double check.
Yeah.
But Tyler, you trying to get some of those?
No, I thought they looked good. I mean,
Yeah.
that it's like one of the sizes looked like kind of a short, fat Robusto, and I kind of like those. Like, I'm not a 60 ring gauge smoker, but the Roma Craft Cro-Magnon Mandible, I think, is one of the best in the lineup there. I think the Mold 5 is the best, but that Mandible I like a lot. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool size. It's the only thing.
Well, look, I mean, what I would say about just, and Dom, I don't know if this is where you were going with this, but sometimes it's easy to kind of get myopic and just focus on the U.S. But there are a lot of cigar smokers all over the world, and China's an emerging market. The Middle East is becoming an emerging market, and where I sort of go into that is go look at the Habanos Edición Regional program, which has been going on for 15 or 20 years. They're making their distributor in whatever region they're in thinks that they can sell, I can't remember what the minimum production is. It's like 125,000 cigars or 100,000 cigars for, Norway or the Middle East or the Emirates, and you go on like CubanCigarWebsite.com, which is a great resource if you're into Cuban cigars. And like, there's been regional exclusives for Russia and South Africa, and then the Asia Pacific region gets its own thing. And obviously the UK and Germany and Spain and Portugal. And then you have like, I just reviewed a cigar from Rafael Gonzalez. It's a regional for the Nordic and the Baltic countries. And you're going like, oh, like I never really think of Norway and Sweden and Iceland and, that part of the country around the world around the Baltic Sea being a big cigar smoking place. But you know what? They do. Because Dagley has lounges in Croatia or Bulgaria or one of those. I forget where it is. Like, that's where they launch a lot of stuff, is in those parts of the world. And then you get Canada and Mexico, and it just goes on and on and on. And a lot of times, you kind of get myopic and go, oh, well, everything's U.S. No, man, there's a lot of cigars being smoked elsewhere.
Like, I saw that brand. I saw it at Cedar Room. El Septimo. They had a little nub. It was literally that big for $17.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, that's nuts. But that seems like it's a pretty big brand over across the pond, or where, I don't even know where it's based out of, but
they certainly have so it's funny, if you dig into El Septimo, they have the guy that owns it also owns a number of hotels and resorts in Europe. And so I think there's some natural connection there, and wanting to come into the U.S. market. There was always that nudge, nudge, wink, wink of, oh, this uses undisclosed tobacco. Look, undisclosed tobacco is a marketing term. It means nothing. So don't get all sweaty about it. But, it had some appeal, and look, they thought they could come into the market. It's no different than, like Vega Fina, or, Casada was making cigars for Spain, the Reserva España line, and retailers in the U.S. got a couple of samples, and they went, we've got to start bringing in this Reserva España because it's so good. And then it blew up to the point where retailers were getting to make their own size of it as a store exclusive. Like there were some core line pieces of it. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff happening all over the world. I mean, Hoya makes stuff for Europe under the Rosalones name, and
wait, what was that name?
Rosalones.
Rosalones.
It's a European exclusive, if I'm not mistaken, but comes out of Hoya, Nicaragua.
It's weird too how you hear a lot of. It seems like the stuff that are using undisclosed. It seems like the factory is always based in Costa Rica. That seems to be like the number one thing. It's like, oh, in Costa Rica, that's where we get all the Cuban stuff at. It just seems weird.
Yeah, I mean, look, what does maybe not every, but what do a lot of American cigar smokers want to do? They want to smoke the forbidden fruit of Cuban tobacco. Cool. Like,
it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, look, I always equate it to, Cuban tobacco is a key on a piano, or, a set of keys on the piano. They have a flavor profile. Cuba can make great cigars. They can punch at whatever weight class you want to put them at, in terms of like, give me the best of Cuba, the best of the Dominican, the best of Honduras, the best of Nicaragua. They are right there. There's no doubt about that. The question is, okay, so what happens after you get out of that top tier? Are you really then competing on the day-to-day basis? That's a long argument for another show that we can have. But again, like there's a lot of this, everybody wants what they can't have, right? Everyone wants the exclusive Air One, Dunk, Jordan, Flight, Ben and Jerry's, Dunkin' Donuts collab, what, you know what I mean?
I wanted that so bad. Oh man, yeah. I wanted that so bad, that Ben and Jerry shoe.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants, it's like everyone wants Pappy. Well, why do you want Pappy? Because I can't have it. Because I can't get it. Okay, so let's do a blind tasting with Pappy and Jack Daniels and, whatever adventurous stills out here in Arizona or whatever. Like, let's see if you actually like Pappy as much as you claim to want it, because you can't have it. But it's that whole kind of thing. And all you have to say is like, oh, well, it's undisclosed. Oh, like, I wonder what that is. Well, there's a lot of Colombian tobacco that masquerades as Peruvian tobacco because a lot of Americans didn't want to support Colombia because it has some political issues. There was time where you couldn't sell Mexican tobacco to save your life because Mexican tobacco, and I think Mexico had rules. And again, I forgive me if I'm misspeaking on this. Like, you couldn't blend Mexican tobacco in a factory.
It had to be a puro.
Yeah.
That's what Miguel Shodell told us, like the Te Amo. Remember that, Dom? When we had
it ought to be puros. So that creates sort of a, that really limits what you can do with a certain variety of tobacco. So, it's just like, don't get all bought into the sweatiness of certain things, and, try it, smoke it. If you generally like it, cool. Dig into it. If you're just buying it because it says undisclosed, be prepared not to maybe have your expectations met.
Well, I've fallen in that trap a lot with the limited release stuff, and it's like the Pete Johnson just released that his 50th birthday packs, and it's the regular, the Noella, the J21, and the Regio size. It's just in a 50 count cab. They're a year old, but they're wrapped in foil. Yeah. And it's like, he only made 100 of each, and our shop got one of each of them. I'm like, I want all three of them. It's like, it's like I work at a shop, and how long am I going to hold on to these for before I open them? And it's 50 of each. It's just like,
right.
I'm chasing the stuff, like the Karloff. Like, I had to go out and chase, 5 boxes of that. And it's like, do I really need that much? How often do I have time for a big cigar like that?
And I would ask yourself, and again, for anybody, why do you want this cigar? Do you want the cigar because it's going to make your buddies go, oh, wow? Like, do you want to smoke an oh, wow cigar that tastes like crap? Or do you want to smoke what you enjoy and go, look, I've chased a lot of stuff in my day. And I will tell you, like, where set into me was Edition Regionales from Cuba. Like, because you sit there and you go, oh, wow, like this is this is a cigar that you can only get in wherever, Portugal or Norway or, the Emirates or whatever. And you go like, and then you light it up and you smoke and you go, wow, this is garbage.
And they're expensive too, aren't they?
Oh yeah. You can, so the Edition Regional, basically, it can't be an existing size in a brand's portfolio, but it can be any other size that exists in Habanos' portfolio.
And it's not like the top brands either. It's like not the top. I mean, it's not like, right?
You can't use the global 6 brands for Edition Regionals. So you can't use Cohiba, Partagas, Upman, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo. There's always a 5th one that I forget because I've got so much other nonsense floating in my brain. But you can't use the global brands, but you can use anything other than that. So that's why you see like Juan Lopez and Bolivar and
Ramon Iones,
and just all those guys they're all the regional edition releases. And look, there's some that really work. There's some that are really, really, really freaking good. There's a lot that you just go, wow. And you're talking like a ring gauge difference. So like they can't make a 4.5 by 50, but they can make a 4.5 by 52. But there's no aging on it. It's not a edition limitada. It's not a reserva. It's not a collection habanos. It's not a grand reserva. It's a size that doesn't exist in the regular portfolio with, when I say this, I temper my statement here, with whatever tobacco they're using that day, just in a little different size. It doesn't mean it's going to be good just because it's only available in one place.
Do you I'm quizzing you now. Do you know do you know what your highest rated cigar on Half Wheel is and your lowest rated cigar?
Teacher Tyler.
So are you talking about like me personally or
Half
Wheel as a site?
You personally.
Oh boy. Okay. My highest rated, I would have to think, is probably the Robina El Padrino, which got, or no, La Bestia. Sorry, the Robina La Bestia, which got like a 97. You're talking about me personally.
Yeah. I have the La Polina.
Oh, the Excelentes,
yeah. 1920.
Yeah, that's sort of an unfair score.
A 97. Can you tell how you got that cigar, or how Half Wheel procured that cigar?
So, in terms of specific mechanics, you'd probably have to ask Charlie.
Okay.
But we are always on secondary market sites looking for stuff. We are politely shameless in terms of asking about things, and like, I never want to say, like, we just say, hey, can you send us this? Because that's something that we've actually stopped doing. Is we actually don't really review samples sent to us by manufacturers anymore. We made a policy a couple of years ago where we don't review trade show samples anymore.
That's a good policy, I think.
We, now that said, we also have this thing called Holy Grail Week, which is the first week of every year where we review the really rare, the really, I don't like the term unicorn cigars, but effectively stuff that's, that's just not on the everyday radar for people.
Was that part of the Holy Grail Week, that La Plina?
Yeah, it was. So it was, we sort of have an ongoing conversation throughout the year. And when I say conversation, I mean like through our project management software, where something will come up and you go, oh, it'd be really interesting to review that. And somebody had put out there like, boy, wouldn't it be fun, like, if we found an original La Polina? Wouldn't it be fun if we found like the Viaje that was made at Hoya de Nicaragua that was never released? Like, boy, that could be fun. or like, we have a couple of reviews that we've done called Ilya, which is done by the it's a cigar that was it was a series of 9 cigars that was made by the Van Sorshen family or made for them. So Ilya was one of the brothers in the distribution company for the Netherlands. And they've got Drew Estate, Hoya, My Father, Padron. There's a couple of opuses in there. But some of them were just like unique sizes or vintages or whatever the case may be. But then they also got a couple of them that were made specifically for them. I think My Father made one of them. I want to say Hoya made one blended exclusively for them. So like that's something that we get kind of intrigued about.
Yeah, I see the one from My Father. They made 418 total cigars, and you guys got one of them.
Yeah. So what they would do is they would release, I think it was 36 or 39 boxes. Yeah, so that's the Ilya. And that was the number of boxes corresponds to the age when Ilya died. And forgive me if I'm saying his name wrong. Again, I don't
he
think
was
I forgot.
36, I believe, when he passed away.
Yeah, so I think they do 36 boxes. They reserve one for his brother, his wife, I think one for each of his kids. And then they invite sort of a collection of people that knew him or friends of the family or whatever it is to get together in a shop, and they all like smoke the cigar kind of in memory of his passing. So again, really cool cigar, really neat story. Just one of those things you don't really see. Now I'm really curious what I gave Lebestia, which is a 94, so I stand corrected. Yeah, fair enough.
Real quick.
Lowest. Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Oh wait. Lowest. Sorry, go ahead with the lowest.
Okay, so I'm gonna I feel bad because I hate being quizzed and not having answers.
Sorry.
I know the lowest cigar that we ever scored was the My Father baseball bat, which got a 25. That one stands out. My lowest may have been the Punch. It was a Punch, not
Signature.
Diablo.
The Signature.
Yeah, Punch Signature Robusto. That was a cigar that I seem to remember writing in the final notes. If I'm not mistaken. After smoking 3 of these, I'm left with one question. Why was this even made? And that went over really well with a lot of people. But hey, welcome to Halfwheel.
Yeah. And it's funny because
politely tell you that your cigar stunk.
That cigar, we would go through boxes of that at the old shop I worked at. And like, I just didn't understand. I mean, I think it might have been a price thing. I couldn't understand it, because I didn't enjoy it either.
No, look, I mean, if there was a correlation between what sold and what was maybe considered to be the best in terms of objectivity, and look, objectivity and subjectivity get to be real, close bedfellows at some points. But look, I don't think anybody would consider Bud Light or Michelob Ultra or Coors Light the best beer in the United States, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind if I was getting the checks for selling them.
Yeah.
So again, like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be like, do you want to be the guy that gets all the gold medals and wins the #1 cigar of the year or the beer of the year or the, spirit of the year in San Francisco, whatever that stuff is? Or do you want to be the guy that moves 8 million cigars a year or however many cases of Bud Light they sell or Coors Light or Ultra or White Claw or, whatever the hot beverage of the moment is?
Reminds me of an Instagram picture I saw the other day. There's like an inspirational cigar pick or whatever with wording on the front, and it said, "There's no such thing as a bad cigar, just better ones." It's like, no, there are some bad ones out there.
No, I think there are, and again, there's, one of the challenges that we face is respecting things that may not necessarily be for your palate, but are still really good. So I equate that to like beers or wines because I think that's an easy one to relate to. So if you want to get into this business of being a critic, like if you want to review beer, I may never drink Imperial Baltic Porters when it's just me sitting around drinking them, but I sure as hell better know how to rate one.
Yeah.
For what it's trying to be. I may not like, Connecticut shade, U.S. Connecticut shade grown mild cigars, but I better sure as hell know how to review one and not say, well, it's not as good as the My Father Le Bijou because it doesn't have the pepper. Guys, it's not trying to be that. Don't confuse the two. And same thing, like I was having this conversation with a younger friend of mine who's kind of part of one of Brandon's friends. And we were talking about the difference between like best selling and stuff that wins awards. And I don't know how we came up on the topic. He was like, I really think American Pie should have won some awards when it came out, that movie.
Great movie.
I'm like, my guy, okay, but like that was also the year that this, that, and the other. I can't remember what the winners, won the Academy Awards.
Like American Beauty, I think, came out in 97.
American Beauty was the one. Yeah. It was that year. And I said, like, my guy, like, they have 235 million reasons not to really worry about an award because that was their gross global receipts. Like,
yeah,
I don't think that the Anheuser-Busch people are really sweating not having best beer of the year trophies on their shelf when they're cashing their Bud Light checks. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Now, again, like, and if you want to go out and you want to make Pliny the Elder and you want to make, KBS or, whatever the high rated beers are in the world or, whatever the case may be, cool, man. Like, I am all about that. But again, there's cigars that sell and there's cigars that score well. And every so often the two meet. And, I think that was what we've seen on other sites where they separate their top 25 lists or their year-end lists into like, okay, here's the regular production stuff that scored really well. Here's the limited stuff that we think is really good, but it's not what we're going to call the best cigar of the year because there was 2,000 boxes of it or whatever the case was.
Real quick, before we forget, I'd like to give our sponsor a shout out, CigarNoise, led by fearless Dave West. He is abroad right now, but still doing stuff for small batch, all the writing. Thanks, Dave. Hope you're back stateside soon.
Can you talk about how you linked up with Charlie and Brooks? If you
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So you would want to go back to about June of 2011. So I was living in Phoenix. I was writing for Examiner.com, which is no longer around, and I was writing for Cigar Snob magazine. And so I had gotten to know Charlie and Brooks mainly because I was following them on, I was reading their work, and was really impressed with both what they're both doing. So at the trade show of 2011, Brooks and Charlie had a meal, if I'm not mistaken, at the Cheesecake Factory in the Venetian, which if you've been to the Venetian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was not part of that conversation. So the conversation basically went, hey, Brooks, you take really good photos and you smoke really good rare cigars and you do these really nice reviews. Well, hey, Charlie, you cover the news aspect of the business and you're really good at getting stories and getting people to talk to you and stuff like that. We should combine our sites because then, what was lacking was, and this is the motto of Halfwheel. We want to be the site that we want to read. And we're all cigar, call it cigar nerds, geeks, enthusiasts, people that just like to do a little bit deeper dive into things. That's what unifies the three of us. And so Brooks had SmokingStogie.com, which was rare cigars, great photography, really, kind of interesting tasting notes and stuff like that. Charlie had the Cigar Feed, which was based off of the sites that were covering Apple at the time. So like 9 to 5, Mac 9 to 5, whatever the site was. And sort of taking that approach to trying to cover a particular company, but to extend it to the industry. So then they started working on that, on bringing their two sites together. And somewhere along the way, they realized that if they wanted to make this work, they needed a third person who had both the interest in cigars, the ability to write, the ability to take photos, the schedule to allow for being on call sort of during the day and whatnot. And I jokingly say I was like the 17th alternate to be called. But at some point I got an email from Brooks, I think it was, of, hey, are you available for a phone call at some point in time? I think it was like November of 2011. And I said, sure, like, here's my number, call me. And so phone rings and it's Charlie and Brooks. And they effectively explained to me the idea of halfwheel and how, like, what it was going to be, what was going to be expected, what, effectively laid everything out on the table. And I went, yeah, that sounds really cool, because I wish I could, I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to do with Examiner. I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to do with Cigar Snob. And this sort of seemed to create a new outlet for us. So we signed some paperwork. The site launches on January 1st of 2012. I come on in a real more full-time, not full-time, but effectively a full-time sense about 6 weeks after, because there was we had to iron out some things with my existing obligations, and one of my existing obligations did not like the fact that I was going to halfwheel, so we parted ways. And that, like I say, that was January 1st of 2012, and we've really not looked back since.
Awesome. Yeah, I just love how easy it is to navigate the site. I mean, I check the site probably 10 times a day. It's one of the things.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we all appreciate the page views. Thank you very kindly.
Yeah, and it's also too, like, I go back and I read old reviews and old editorials, and it's for a retailer, it's a fucking wealth of knowledge. And I love how you go deep into, like, I love the introduction. I love the bullet points, because that's like the stuff I love to hear.
Sure, thank you.
And that's the thing with Wisconsin. It's not a super heavy cigar market. There's a smoking ban. It's shitty 11 months of the year. So, that's a way to, and that's kind of why I wanted to start a podcast and that's kind of how me and Dom, we met at the trade show and kind of started that way. Just a way to, get people on and chat. And, yeah, like I said, I mean, literally I'm on it 10 times a day. So,
well, what I can tell you, like I say, is, our overarching motto is we want to be the site that we want to read. Effectively, we write for ourselves, and we just happen to have a couple 100,000 or whatever our current number is of people that just like to follow along with that. What was really interesting with the start of Halfwheel is that it sort of came about at the same time as social media was really taking off as a methodology for manufacturers and brand owners to communicate with various constituents within the industry, whether it be consumers or retailers. And I remember having a conversation with a sales rep based in Phoenix, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but he said to me, like, the only reason he ever signed up for Facebook was because that was the only way he could keep up with what his brands were doing. Because he'd go into shops and they were like, the retailer was asking him about stuff.
Yep.
Because cigar brand X had posted about it on their Facebook or their Instagram or whatever that day. And we were sort of an extension of that. As I like to say to people, we hope that you will take a little bit of your breakfast, lunch, and dinner time to stop by Halfwheel and see what's going on, so you're up to date on the world. And if that's not possible, subscribe to our newsletter. You go to our website. There's a sign-up box in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll get all the stories from the previous day in your email at 6 a.m. or 6 a.m. Central Time. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, I'm making my coffee. I'm waiting for my toast to toast or whatever. And I go, oh, okay, well, oh, look, there's a smoking ban that's in the next town over. Or, oh, wow, the FDA did this. Or cigar company X is doing this or that, or whatever the case may be. I mean, we want to give people a reason to come back to the site, because unfortunately, one of the biggest, the 800-pound elephant, or I guess more than 800 pounds, but, the elephant in the room, publishes one story a day, effectively, maybe two. And so we wanted to just give light to as much of the cigar industry as we can, give you a reason to come back, because I was always amazed at, like, how can there only be one story a day?
Yeah.
You know, like that's not feasible. And we just sort of broke the mold on that. So that's what we do. And at the end of the day, if there's ever a question that comes up about, should we write about this? Should we talk about this? Whatever. The three of us hop in a conference call, and it's, would we want to read this if we were not on this side of the computer screen? And
I also like some of the stuff you guys been doing with the YouTube channel. I think you do a really good job with your lighter reviews. I watch all those.
Thank you.
I read them, and I watch
the lighter reviews. I say thank you very much, because I'm always nervous as heck about those.
No, they're good, and I like that you do all kinds of from the $10 everyday carry lighter to the new DuPont. And then I saw the review, and I have the and I always forget the name, but I have the Extreme DuPont, and then they came out with the dual flame, and then you had the review wasn't favorable on it, and I told my buddy, I'm like, don't get it. I'm like, Half Wheel said don't get it, man. He got it and he hated it, and it broke right away, and I'm like, what did I tell you, man? I'm like, they're not BSing. They test that lighter for a long time before they do the review.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right now we're doing an extended series on so one of the questions, all of us get asked basically the same question, which is, what's your favorite cigar? What cigar should I smoke? And then inevitably something of, what's your favorite lighter or cutter or humidor, or I need a humidor. What humidor should I buy?
Dom, scratch those off the questions we're asking. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'll tell you what I think are the good ones. I'll tell you everything I use. I don't keep secrets, but Charlie does our humidors and humidification reviews. So Brooks does cutters, I do lighters, and like I said, Charlie does humidors, humidification topics.
You got the best end of that one, the lighter. Cutters,
I like to think so. Brooks gets some really interesting cutters, and I'm glad I say that I don't have to destroy cigars in testing cutters, because some of them are not very good. And, some things that seem like they are great ideas on paper don't actually work in principle or in practice. But so one of the questions that we seemingly always get is, hey, I'm getting into cigars. I need a humidor. I don't want to spend, X to get a blank or whatever. Like, I want to spend about this, and I want to have about this many cigars. So Charlie just started a series that he's going to be running over the next, I think, 3 to 4 months, of what is the humidor that looks like what we generally consider as humidors, that can hold about 75 cigars and costs no more than $175. So we found 7 of them that meet that criteria. And so the next, I know we were talking about this today during our meeting, and kind of how these are going to play out, but it's basically every 2 to 3 weeks, there'll be a new humidor that gets reviewed. And hopefully it's sort of an extended, like, humidor shootout as to, if that's what you want to do. But then, like, at the same time, we also reviewed a $14 plastic bin that you can get at Target, because, in my hierarchy of things, depending on how many cigars you have and how much money you want to spend at it, there's the plastic bag that you get at the store when you buy your cigars. There's the Ziploc plastic bag that holds like a gallon or two. And then there's different tiers of humidors. And then you get to the $5,000 Ellie Blue custom something, blank, whatever. But, we want to show people that, like, what? A lot of Half Wheel's inventory is in these $10 or $15 plastic airtight tubs that we get at Target. And you know what? For our purposes, they work just fine. And, but we're also not, we're not putting them on a desktop. We are trying to store a lot of cigars. Now, that all said, we also have really nice, expensive cabinet humidors that have Cigar Oasis humidification in it and are well into the 4 figures. So we run the gamut, but we also like if I wasn't on this side of the computer screen, what would I be interested in reading? Because look, I know that not everyone's going to go out and drop $100 or $200 or $500 for a lighter, or however many hundreds or thousands of dollars for a humidor. So let's cover that spectrum and give people some ideas as to what would work for their situation.
Do you guys have any plans to so I know they're supposed to be sold as a set, but the new My Father 70-year, are you guys, I'm sure someone's got to be selling those as singles, right? The $100, it came in the $10,000 LE Blue
right
humidor. But I think it's crazy that the My Father sales force, I'm pretty sure they want you to sell as a set. Am I understanding that correctly? Yeah.
You are correct. That it is designed to be sold as a set.
You guys have plans on getting that set?
I would say yes to probably both of your questions, which is, are we trying to find singles? Yes. Would we consider buying the entire thing? Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, again, I do not have a definitive answer for you at the moment.
No, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
But
I mean, that's a tough
the
question.
answer is yes to both. So,
Patrick, we are at the 1 hour mark. So if you do have another engagement, just give us a heads up.
No, I'm good for a bit. I just
Cool.
literally my engagement for the rest of the night is smoking more cigars. So,
Oh, perfect.
Not too bad. We have a new segment. I'm not sure how long we can beat it before it dies, but you mentioned earlier you don't like the word unicorn, so you can't choose that. But what word would you like to delete from the cigar industry?
oh boy.
I could go first if you.
Yeah, please go. Yeah, go for it.
So me and Dom kind of have different opinions on the direction we want to go with the podcast. You know, we do a lot of different, like, this is more like a straightforward kind of like interview where I get to nerd out and ask somebody who knows a lot more than me all these different questions. And then we also do episodes where, like you saw, like we had Rudy on and Danny, where that was an interview, but it was kind of like a herf.
Sure.
I don't like that term.
That one was more of an interview.
Okay. But I'm not a big fan of the word herf. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just like the herfador, let's do a herf online. I'm not a fan of the word herf.
To be clear, Tyler, I dislike it as well, but I still use it.
Well, what's another word that we could use? Just a BS session or just shooting the shit? I mean, what's herf? Where did that even come from? Is that like a
hit up Google.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, type Google.
Yeah, or like, is it like I don't know. But Dom, do you have a word this week that you would?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know if we can come up with a new word every week. What I say last week was thirds, just to mix things up. So to see how reviews would look if there wasn't that criteria that people stuck by.
No, I think that's fair. I think the third idea is it's a convenient one, but it's not one that necessarily translates into actual cigars, because sometimes you're going to get a cigar that, you know, is very consistent in the first half, and then it does a whole bunch of stuff in the second half.
Or you're smoking the El Septimo, I don't know, nub.
Oh, believe me, like, we do some like 4-inch cigars every once in a while. It's like puff, puff, puff. Well, that's the first third. Puff, puff, puff. That's the second third.
Yeah.
You know, you're 9 puffs in and you're going, well, thankfully it's divisible by 3. Apparently the origin of the word herf has been lost to history, says one of our fine sponsors. So I don't have a great answer for that. As far as, like, God, what would I, you know, as somebody who deals in words a lot, both, you know, from writing and doing voiceover and stuff like that, there's a lot of words I hate, or misuses of words I hate. In the cigar industry, I don't know if there's one that really, like, that gets to me. I know Charlie's not a fan of the word collaboration, because a lot of times the term collaboration gets misused for no, you're a brand owner and you're a customer of a factory.
Yeah.
I've never liked the word log in referring to a cigar. Like, and again, you see it in one particular publication, this log of a cigar is like, like you used up log 100 times. I'm kind of done with that one.
I'm not a fan of calling cigars other words besides cigar, like stick. This is a good stick. Yardgar, stogie.
I had a manufacturer tell me they could never understand why somebody would refer to it as a stick. And I was like,
I said that earlier in the podcast.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
Edit that out, Dom.
God, I'm trying to think.
Thank you.
Else would I don't know if there's anything that really, like in terms of specific words, I don't think there's anything that really gets me. I think if anything, it's I get frustrated with like mispronunciations and stuff.
Agranosa or Agranosa.
Croliolo, Olivia, Series 5, Robusto. That one gets me.
See, well, Patrick, I gotta know this. What is your weakness here? Because okay, you take good photography. You're a good writer. You got like the most professional voice. I hate my voice. I mispronounce everything. I can't write. It's like, do you have a weakness in regards to, is there something that you could work on in cigar? Like there's a lot of shit I could work on. For me, it's pronouncing words right, and.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. I would look, I think the role that we have as journalists and as reviewers is to be translators. That's the role of a good journalist, is to take the complex or the unfamiliar and make it understandable to those who do not understand what it is. So I think, that is always the overarching goal of getting better at what I do, whether that's making my sentences more, making them tighter and shorter and more single thought to, I get on Charlie about this all the time. It's like, you have to remember that something may taste a certain way to you, but the rest of the world has probably never tasted that. And you can be specific, and that's fine to a point. And the case being, so I grew up in Seattle. I lived there till I was 29-ish, till November 2009. Or no, I guess it was a little over 30 before I moved down here to Phoenix. And I don't know if you guys know who Mario Batali is, but Celebrity Chef, Food Network, really kind of well-known guy if you're into that stuff. So Mario Batali's dad was an engineer at Boeing, which, makes airplanes. So he retires. He opens a salami shop in Pioneer Square, which is sort of the south of downtown area of Seattle.
If it's not Boeing, I'm not going.
There you go.
I work at an airline.
Okay, there you go. So he had this particular type of salami that had like orange peel or orange zest in it or something. And like, if you had like really good salami, it's got that fatty, oily, it's not meaty like a steak is, but there's still some meatiness. And I remember having a cigar going like, oh my God, that's that flavor. It's orange and it's fatty and oily and meaty. But and I can say that. I said, well, it tastes just like this salami from a place called Salumi up in Seattle. Like 99% of the people, look, a cigar may taste like my grandmother's spaghetti sauce. I guarantee you, nobody reading Half Wheel, outside of one of my uncles, knows what my grandmother's spaghetti sauce tastes like.
Well, so, that's a perfect transition to one of the questions we had from one of the viewers. Dom, should I just read it off, or can you form it in a better way?
Oh yeah. This listener said he loves the news articles that Half Wheel puts out. But there are sometimes criticisms based on certain notes on the blind reviews. So how do you guys, and you already mentioned that it's done individually. So do you react? Do you comment to one another? How does that process go?
Well, I guess you kind of answered that a little bit, right?
Yeah, I kind of did.
So I can tell you, like, our editing process, which is probably the worst part of Halfwheel, if I'm being totally honest, is that we have way too many typos for my liking. Because again, my baseline is perfection.
Yeah.
And it should be perfection, and you get better from there. And that's borrowed from a former Major League Baseball umpire who says, being an umpire is the only job in the world where you're expected to start perfect and get better. And there are times where I will say, so basically I edit Charlie's reviews. Charlie edits Brooks and my reviews. And I will occasionally edit Brooks's reviews if Charlie's unavailable for whatever reason, if he's traveling or something. And there are numerous times where I have to say to Charlie, okay, I know what an umami sensation tastes like, or what that physical reaction is. You need to explain that to people, because someone somewhere doesn't know what that tastes like, or it's just never been connected to them.
I think Indiana Ortez asked that question on somebody, they were talking about reviews, and she asked that question because she wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah. And, and look, we all have our backgrounds of foods that we like. I remember getting criticized because, so I eat, I'm pretty, what's the word? When you like
bougie.
I'm that guy that, I'm that guy that eats everything, like
well-versed.
Like nothing is off limits to me. I'll eat anything for the most part. And, but again, even then, like, there's times where I just don't know what somebody may be referencing. And, so I always say, get it back to that sort of familiar place. And if you feel like a specific term is warranted, by all means use it, but don't let that be the only thing you say. So, like, again, I said to Charlie, he had some review the other day that was talking about there's a real umami flavor. I said, look, you need to put in, after the first time you mention that, what is umami flavor to you? And it's that kind of, savory, it's not salty, but it's like MSG, and it's that, once you kind of get familiar with it, it becomes a little bit easier to understand. But, look, a lot of times we don't even think about flavors when we eat. And unfortunately, this is an American sort of problem, is that, like, a lot of times we're just sitting there, we're eating our food and we're watching TV, or we're eating in the car because we're going from place to place. And it's just like, I'm just trying to get something in my stomach to stop the hunger pains from distracting me from whatever else I'm trying to be doing. And
like, it's just fuel. Like, it's just fuel.
Yeah. You're getting a physical reaction saying, I'm hungry, so therefore I'm going to eat something to stop that unpleasant sensation. And what I tell people is, so let's start with, like, sweetness. And the first thing I would say is, like, if you really want to just take that next step into understanding flavors, go online and Google flavor wheel, because you will get a really good, succinct idea of sort of the spectrum of flavors that we pick up as human beings. But then I'll say to people, okay, so if I say something is sweet, name me 20 things that are sweet. Well, ice cream is sweet. Milk is sweet. Apples are sweet. Bananas are sweet. Candy is sweet. Chocolate is sweet, or can be sweet. And you can just go on down the list. But nobody's confusing like milk chocolate with an apple, right? So, like, you have to get into that point where you're not being too specific to where you're disconnecting from people, but you want to be specific enough to try and say, this is the kind of sweetness that reminds me of, a sugary cereal, or one of my favorites, the milk left over at the end of a bowl of Frosted Flakes or something. Like, there's a very distinct taste that comes from that, because you're getting creaminess and sugar and sweetness and everything else.
Better than the milk after Lucky Charms.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our frames of reference, and, it's just trying to sort of get into that, to find that little sweet spot of, like, let's be relatable, specific, but not so specific that we're becoming esoteric and hard to, if you read a cigar review on Half Wheel and you don't understand a single thing about what we said it tastes like, we didn't do you a service. We didn't do our job. And that's a fail for us.
Back to words. This is a segment we haven't done in a few shows. So I teach.
You're going to get me on a tangent here in a minute, so I want you to be aware of that.
I teach a few subjects in middle school. One is spelling vocabulary. And earlier you mentioned subjective, which was a spelling word this week. And in 7th grade, collaboration, the word that Charlie doesn't like. Another word this week. Tyler, you get to start, and because I know you're going to look at your phone. Use subterfuge in a sentence pertaining to cigars.
Go.
Pass. Come on.
There's
no pass.
I am not good at this. I told
You're on
you
the clock. This is a test.
No. I've never even heard of that word.
Subterfuge?
No.
Okay. Well, I was going to do verisimilitude, but thought subterfuge was easier.
Wow, you're throwing out some hard ones there.
Yeah.
These are 6th grade spelling words. I didn't use verisimilitude until I was in college.
So, like, if you were saying that the tobacco broker misled the buyer with subterfuge in order to make enough the tobacco broker mislabeled the tobacco he sold to the company owner because of he needed to employ subterfuge to make his rent payment that month.
Yeah,
I'm sniffing it. I'm not there yet.
I was thinking like broker or rep use subterfuge when they put their band on a padrone and then convince the people to buy a box of his cigar, something like that.
Or the tobacco, the cigar company owner called it Dominican tobacco out of subterfuge because he knew that Haitian tobacco wouldn't sell.
Yeah. Perfect. There's your word of the day.
Ugh, I can't even spell that. So for you,
the real hard part is when you get subterfuge confused with centrifuge.
Oh, God.
It's like a nuclear reactor term, isn't it?
The center cannot hold.
Patrick, earlier you had mentioned you have to kind of like, with reviews, you were mentioned like, you may not like something, but you have to be able to, put your, I don't know if bias is the right word or not. Is there a type of cigar or a type of wrapper that you prefer or you don't prefer, or you do and don't like, kind of?
Yeah. So I funny you mentioned this. So I really love Mexican San Andreas tobacco. I've come to really like Habano, like Ecuadorian, Nicaraguan Habano. I don't know what it is. There's a certain point at which Honduran tobacco, sort of as a generality, with a certain amount of age on it, becomes really good. Whereas like young Honduran tobacco, or maybe what would be considered typical and okay for commercial release Honduran tobacco, doesn't do it for me. Charlie was reviewing a cigar a month ago, and I was asking him about it, which is something we don't usually do, but I knew he was working on it, and I just wanted to see how the review was coming along. He goes, well, it's got that Patrick level earthiness to it. Like I really love earthy, and that's why I like Mexican San Andreas, and this is an interesting one. So I think good Mexican San Andreas has a bit of a clay note to it, and clay is often used in baseball diamonds, like for the infield dirt. It's a mixture of a lot of things, but usually there's some clay in it. And there's been cigars I've smoked that, as I say this, taste like sliding into second base. And some people just don't like that flavor. Some people hate Olor. Like I'm not a big Olor fan from the Dominican. I think it's good in small doses. I think it's a nice accent note, much the same way that I like Tapatio hot sauce, but I would never just drink a shot glass of it. It's good on my burrito, but it's not necessarily good by itself. I think like U.S. grown Pennsylvania and Connecticut broadleaf can get metallic, and that isn't necessarily something I really get sweaty about. I think broadleaf can go wrong, and when broadleaf goes wrong, it really does not work for my palate.
Tyler, what was the one you said tastes like metallic to you?
Jalapa tobacco.
Mm.
I get that a lot with the Tabacalera Pichardo cigars.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So yeah, well, you're talking about aged Honduran and then Habano. So what I thought of immediately was the Aladino vintage. What's it called? Aladino Habano Vintage Selection Rothschild, which was in your top, which is in Half-Wheel's top 25. Brooks originally rated a 91, so I could see that was probably up your alley.
Yeah, it's Honduran tobacco is really weird. I've yet to figure it out, and I want to go down and like spend some time with the Iroas, because there is something, and I say this about like Asylum 13, Asylum 13, which is an aged Honduran. Honduran tobacco has this like dusty earthiness when it's, it's gone through sort of the normal processing. And I've only been to Honduras once, but there's times you're out in like certain roads and it's, you're going through farms, like, man, it's like everything's just dusty. And it sort of reminds me of Phoenix, which is, look, we are in a desert technically, and when it gets really dry and really windy, you tend to get a kind of a dusty flavor in the air, especially during monsoon season before the rains hit in. And I find the same thing with Honduran tobacco. Like that doesn't work for me. But there's something about, I don't know if it's 3 years or 4 years or whatever, that it makes a jump and it goes, wow, like this is really, really freaking good. So
that was one of the factories I was able to visit was Julio Arroyo's, which I think Charlie went to. I don't know if Brooks went to when they were starting to launch JRE. That was a great experience. I love Esteli so much where I'm not sure if I would go back to Honduras, especially I've never been to the DR or Cuba.
Okay, sure.
But I was in Nicaragua for 18 days back in March, right when the shit started to hit the fan. Is there a favorite country you like to visit? Because you guys do a lot of the big show, Pro Cigar, and all the other ones. Is there one that you really look forward to?
I look forward to them all for very different reasons. The Dominican is, I mean, if you're talking festivals, the Dominican is probably one of the better organized ones. And I'm going to take Cuba out of the conversation just for a moment, because, Cuba is such a different world for so many reasons. And I've been fortunate to be there 4 or 5 times now. And the nice thing about Cuba is because like my cell phone doesn't work there and internet's kind of spotty, I really feel like I get to sort of be on vacation, even though I know that's not like the correct term to use. Is that, like, Americans don't vacation in Cuba. But it gives me the opportunity to sort of function in the country at a different level of interaction. And I'm so intrigued by it. And I think Cuba is just, look, it has a list of problems a mile long. Nobody's going to argue that. But there's also a lot of really cool parts of Cuba that you have to respect. I was supposed to go to Ecuador this winter because I wanted to see growing operations there. Yeah. They don't make cigars there. I just wanted to go see field. Because look, I live in downtown Phoenix. I live in, an urban environment. So for me, getting to be out on a field is really, it's for lack of a better word, it's life-giving, because you're back in nature. You're back amongst things that are growing. You're really connecting to the soil in a different way that you don't get to do when you're walking around on asphalt or living in a high rise. So no, I mean, I think all of them have their own unique, merits and appeal. I certainly think in the Dominican, maybe you get it's a tick more developed than like Esteli is, you know, and Esteli has come a long way. So I tend to think maybe on the Dominican, I get a little more full breadth of things. Like I just found out the Caribbean series is going to be in Santo Domingo next year, and knock on wood, I would love to go watch that. And I have friends in Santo Domingo, and there's the Villiger has there's the ABAM factory, which is there. I may try and go watch the Caribbean series and see that factory and kind of do that whole thing. No, I don't necessarily know if I have a favorite amongst them all. I think it's, you know, for me, it's just getting to be somewhere that I'm not, you know, for 49 weeks a year.
Yeah. Do you see yourself in Phoenix for the long haul? Would you ever relocate to Texas, or, you know, be by the other guys, or is Phoenix kind of? Well, you talk about buying a house, so you're probably pretty.
Yeah, look, I made it well. Look, I never say that anything is going to be the end all be all or the long-term answer. I mean, something could come up, and look, life is an equation, you know, and you've got a whole bunch of things on one side of the equal sign, and that's family, friends, professional opportunities, environment, economics, and then you have the number on the right side of the equal sign. And for me, the goal is always, how do I maximize the number on the right side?
Yeah.
So, like, I love Seattle, which is where I grew up. I made it till I was about 29, and I said, I got to get out of here because I was just tired of cold and gray and rainy and stuff like that. And I had been fortunate enough to be exposed to Phoenix, which is warm, sunny, baseball, cigars, all this other stuff. It's a pretty good combination for me. I can't say that I would necessarily move to Dallas. Now, that said, if the Texas Rangers called me or the Houston Astros and said, hey, we'd like to pay you X number of dollars per year and to do this and that and the other thing. Yeah, look, I'm not turning it down. There's a point in my life I was ready to move to Miami to go work for the Marlins. You know, I was applying for a job and it didn't happen, and I was ready to pack up and move there. But I mean, for where I am right now in my life, Phoenix is seemingly a pretty good sweet spot of everything that I want to do. You know, we've got, like I said, I work for Major League Baseball. I do announcing for a couple of teams, and, you know, we're getting ready for spring training. And I was literally having conversations about, hey, can you cover this game? Can you cover that game right before we signed on? You know, like we're just under 2 weeks out from the start of spring training. And I am giddy to get back to ballparks. You know, like, I hadn't seen a live sporting event in 8.5 months because of the pandemic. And I do work for the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury, which are NBA and WNBA teams. So, like, I remember walking in the Suns arena, or where they both play, for, you know, like, kind of preseason production meetings. It was like my heart just like started beating again. Like, I had woken up from the dead just being back in an arena, and then getting to see live sports. You know, and Phoenix is one of the handful of cities in the country that have all 4 pro sports teams. And there's the 4 major teams. You know, we have a USL soccer team, we have WNBA, we have spring training, we have the Arizona Fall League, we have a rookie league, minor league that plays here. So I think it would be really, really tough to get me to go somewhere short of a really, really nice paycheck that was tied into it.
Yeah, sounds like the perfect situation.
Oh, look, and we all live places because we love it, or there's some reason that we're there. I was, you know, when I was living in Seattle, you know, I would travel a lot and I'd go different places, and I'd always have that thought of like, wow, it's a really nice place to visit. I don't know if I'd want to live there. You know, I remember being in New York City and in Manhattan in particular. So I had a buddy that I went to high school with that was working for Jay-Z's company, Rockaware. And I remember just like walking around Manhattan going, and this is like in the nice time of the year. This wasn't winter. It's going like, man, I don't know. Like, this is fun. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening here, but man, I don't know if I could see myself being here. And I'd come down to Phoenix and go, hey, it's warm. It's sunny. You don't have to shovel snow. Like, we joke about like having tire chains here. Like nobody has tire chains in Phoenix because it's never snows. I remember when I moved down here, it was November of 2009. It was like 75 degrees. And I remember sitting in my apartment going like, this is bizarre. And even to this day, and I've been here for 11 years, like it's February 16th and I'm in, like, I don't even have to look at a jacket, like this doesn't feel right.
I'm in my house with a hoodie on, jogging pants, and a electronic fireplace going, it's like,
and like I say, anything under 70 degrees now is cold to me. So, and my threshold's about 113 on the other end of it. So, and that's when I start to get really kind of cranky. But, like I like where I live. I'm really happy where I'm at right now. So,
Patrick, this is my last question. Back to baseball. So, as Tyler said, we met at the trade show. Was that 17?
Yeah,
I think. And I took along my housemate at the time. We were good friends in college, lived together 3 years after that as well. He knows nothing about cigars, but he came with me, held the camera to do some interviews, and he actually kind of started, I don't know if he started talking to you, Tyler, or he's just like, oh, hey, look at this lonely dude in the corner of the Romacraft party. It was kind of sad. Let's go talk to him. But he's big into sports. He's a LA native, big Dodgers fan, loves football as well, Raiders fan. And I want to get him on the podcast, but I want to bring him with somebody else who knows sports. So at least maybe he doesn't know cigars. I want to try to get him into the group in some way. What other cigar guys out there are big in sports? Off the top of my head, I can think of Miguel Shodell, who we've had on, and Oliver of United. Are there any others that you can think of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, shoot.
That's kind of a weird question.
Hector Alfonso Espinoza, big Mets fan, pretty big
Aaron
football
Loomis.
Fan. Yeah.
Bear.
It would be an interesting one was Dan Tiant. So his dad was Louis Tiant, who played in the majors late 60s, 70s, into the mid 80s. And they have a cigar brand. Well, they had a cigar brand called El Tiante. And there's been some chatter it may reemerge at some point. But Dan Tiant could be a really interesting one. He's doing amateur development for baseball in the Miami area, or I think in the Miami area.
Okay.
Who else I put there? I mean, Orlando Alduque Hernandez has his own cigar line. I don't know how his English is. So that would be an interesting one. Boy, who else is a real big sports fan that I would put out there? Those are the ones that come to mind, because I remember, and I bring up Hector and some of the Espinoza guys because I was down at Lazona Palooza in 2019, and they do a live show as part of that, and they brought me on it, and it was like, they're flat out like, Hall of Fame questions. So I'm like, guys, I work for MLB. I have to temper my responses because I can't be that guy. We're supposed to be kind of non-opinionated. And I certainly didn't want anything coming back to haunt me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Hector could be a fun one. He's a character.
Yeah, Hector's a good dude.
Yeah, Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Warmth.
Mr. Warmth, yeah.
Yeah, he's a great one. And be sure to tell him I recommended that because I'm sure he'll love me for that. Yeah, I think it'd be he'd be a good starting point. I think who else I would put in there. Maybe Ram Rodriguez from El Artista because they do the David Ortiz cigar.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be interested to know who at Rocky Patel set up things like the Ray Lewis cigar and the Gary Sheffield and the Bernie Parent and I want to say there's another one in there.
There's a hockey one. Did you?
Bernie Parent, yeah.
Okay, I didn't recognize that name. I should have.
Yeah, he played for the Flyers, if I'm not mistaken. I'd be interested to know, like, if there's somebody in that group that kind of brokers that deal. I mean, the other one you could get is Karl Malone. He has his own line of cigars, and his daughter, it's not Casey, Katie, maybe I think is her name. She kind of runs their retail operation in. I know they're in Louisiana somewhere. That may be an interesting one. Try and get Carl on. I don't know what he's talking about basketball wise. I mean, when I saw him at TPE a couple of years ago, he was very like, he gave a keynote speech. He's like, number one, no basketball questions, but you never know. I mean, he may have some interesting insight for you. So it's a good starting point.
Cool. Tyler, you thought that was a weird question?
Yeah, you're asking the guest who it's just it's
weird.
Next. Yeah. Hey, I got this friend who wants to be on the podcast, know nothing about cigars, and Tyler used to be big into sports. He's not anymore.
I couldn't tell you like sports. You said you don't watch football.
I don't watch. Okay, here's the thing. So, and I've talked about this on the podcast numerous times. When I get into something, okay, for me, like middle school, it was sports. High school, college, it was movies. And 20s, with cigars. So it's like I kind of hamper, or not, that's not, I kind of just put all my attention on one thing, So It's like I could talk to you about, the 2001 Milwaukee Bucks team that took Philly to Game 7 in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. I could name that whole team, but can I name the whole team now? No. Do I? Well, I can't remember the last time I watched the Bucks play, because it's like I'm all into one thing right now. Even with
the Antetokounmpo, you're not watching Bucks games?
No, because they're gonna fuck it up, man. They always do. I lost faith in the Milwaukee Bucks when they traded Ray Allen for a half a season of Gary Payton and Desmond Mason.
Oh boy, we're gonna see now. You know who you're talking to is somebody from Seattle.
Yeah.
Who was working for the Sonics when that trade happened. And the famous line, because Howard Schultz was the owner of the team, was somebody brought a sign to a game that said, "Hey, Howard, where's our star Bucks?" But Ching.
Yeah. What an awful trade.
Wasn't Ben Baker part of that deal, or wasn't he involved?
He was a former Buck. No, he was already gone.
He was okay. It was part of the separate deal.
Yeah, it was. We wanted to cater to George Karl, so we traded somebody in his prime who had a few years left on his deal for a guy whose contract was expired at the end of the year and who was like year 12, So we had 2 point guards. We had Sam Cassell and Gary Payton, and it was a glove. And then they're like, "Oh, Sam Cassell, well, he's the hand. The glove is just the worst fucking, It's so they're gonna fuck it up.
Didn't play well. Yeah.
No, and then they fucked it up by all their draft picks suck. So it's. I love sports. I've Brewers, Bucks, and Packers, but it's hard for me too because it's like I know a lot of Bears fans and Cubs fans, and they talk the most shit, and it doesn't make sense to me because they didn't do anything to help the team. I mean, I guess they cheered them on, but it's like you can't.
So like if you want to go back to some of the words that I hate, I'll give you a couple of them. Number one, using the word golf as a verb. Like I understand it's happened, but like I don't go golfing any more than I go baseballing or basketballing, or footballing, right?
I've never thought about that.
Yep. You play golf, you play baseball, you play basketball.
Yeah.
And I understand golfer is kind of a weird one because then it gets fuzzy and everything. But I hate like when people say, "Oh yeah, I went golfing." No, you went and played golf because I didn't just come back from baseball. The other one, and I struggle with this one too, is like when talking about a team or an event, it's like they say, we did this. That was a great thing for us. I'm like, really? I didn't see you on the sideline.
Yeah.
I didn't see you on the field. And I get it. Like that's part of the illusion of sports is that everyone's part of the, it's an extension of our tribal history. But like, my guy, you didn't rush for 100 yards today. So we didn't win. The team won. We cheered them on, but you got to maintain that line of separation at times.
What's your thoughts on like rooting for a college that you didn't play for? Or, I mean, that you didn't go to school? Like, for me, like, I guess I'm a Badger fan, but I didn't go to UW-Madison. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's...
Look, I mean, it's never going to be something I'm going to get sweaty about. I mean, I went to a college that didn't have a football team. I think there's sort of are there schools that, like, look, I'm always happy to see Arizona State win. I'm always happy to see Arizona win because, look, anything that does good for the school, great. I'm certainly always happiest when I see my university win, but, we had basketball and soccer and baseball, and I certainly cheer for them in those sports, but like, we didn't have a football team. So, and I went to University of San Francisco, which right after my freshman year, a little tiny school up in Spokane, Washington called Gonzaga got really good. Mm. And so like our basketball team kind of, I would say it became irrelevant, but it was like, we weren't playing on the same level as, I mean, look, nobody in the West Coast Conference other than like St. Mary's here and there. And you remember who was, Santa Clara. Somebody else, somebody had a couple of good years. It was like, there's Gonzaga, who's number 1 in the country and like 20-0 right now. And to borrow the line from Moneyball, there's Gonzaga, there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's everyone else. It's like, that's kind of how it works right now. But in the grand scheme, I don't care, man. Like, if you identify with Wisconsin or Miami or Washington or ASU, like, I don't have any ASU, apparel or anything. Like, I watch the game and I go, oh, hey, look, ASU's playing Utah or whatever. Cool. Good job, ASU. Nice win tonight.
Go team.
Go team. Yay, football.
What's your, now we're going off the deep end here. What's your favorite baseball movie or top 3 baseball movies? Because I think I don't think there's a lot of good football movies or any other sport movies, but I think fucking baseball has nailed the movie genre. For me, it's Field of Dreams.
I'll answer the question, but I will say, like, I'll go one more on you. I don't know if they still are around, but like, go to your local bookseller and go to the sports section, and like, the baseball section is 6 shelves deep.
Yeah.
The golf section is like 2 shelves deep, and then every other sport basically takes up a shelf collectively. I would say I am probably a Bull Durham number 1.
That's a great movie, yeah.
Field of Dreams is probably 2. League of Their Own is up there. Major League would probably be in Major League 1 is probably in the second tier. I was never a fan of The Natural. I was never a big fan of Sandlot. I was never a big fan of 8 Men Out, although I think
Angels?
8 Men Out's good. Nah, never Angels in the outfield.
You're done.
Never Little Big League or I think Little Big League was interesting because of all the talent, the players they had in it.
Space Jam, best basketball movie.
Are we being serious here? Because,
no, I'm joking.
Okay.
I haven't seen. I tried to watch The Natural. It's just it's too weird, and it's too old of a movie. But Moneyball, I think, was a really good.
I've got Moneyball
yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, what's funny is like there's some of these movies that are always on, TBS or whatever, and it's like, how many times have I seen, like I always joke, like I've seen Moneyball, 30.84 times because I've seen, like I've only seen it start to finish once, but I've seen it in some fragmented form probably 85 times.
It's like Shawshank.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I like Moneyball. I think, not to again go really off deep, I think there's some flaws to it, but I think they did a pretty good job translating the book to the movie.
Well, the
even
whole
though I
thing,
think the book was kind of flawed, but
yeah, because they never.
Moneyball's an economics book, an economics movie, more than a baseball book or movie. Then you get a little different appreciation for it.
Because they never mentioned that they had three of the best starting pitchers in the league: Mark Mulder, Barry Zito, and Tim Hudson. See, Dom, if you guys can see my book collection here, I have my favorite author is I'm a big Bill Simmons fan.
Oh yeah.
So I listen to his, well, not so much. I listen to more cigar podcasts now than I do some of the Ringer stuff. But I was a big fan of Grantland. Zach Lowe did a great basketball pod. He used to be a teacher, and now he's a big time writer for ESPN, and he has his own podcast. But I'm trying to collect all the Grantland quarterlies, which they're fucking outrageously priced. I have 6 different ones. There's only like 15 of them. But I have a lot of baseball books. I got a lot of ESPN books. I got like the Jalen Rose biography, Leroy Butler. Yeah, so I mean, I'm a big sports guy, but it's just cigars have taken #1 spot, you know.
Sure.
And it's like, cause like, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I work for an airline, so there's a lot of downtime. So that's when I'm reading Halfwheel, I'm listening to podcasts, and I should start. What I need to do is learn Spanish. I mean, that would be fucking worth doing, but I don't know. It's weird how as you get older, not only does your interest change, but also kind of like bring this back into cigars, like your palate. You know, like I used to be big time heavy full body guy. Now I can appreciate a Connecticut. You know, kind of bring it back.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's like I've always said, you don't have to like every cigar that's out there, but I think that if you can appreciate where the good ones are, that makes it a lot more interesting to sort of sample sample what's out in your local humidor or just what's generally available to you, and understand not every cigar has to fit every moment. People talk about the morning cigar, the evening cigar, the middle of the day cigar, and like there's sometimes I just want to, like when I'm hanging out with my buddies, I'm not smoking something that I really want to pay attention to. I just want something that's good and that's not going to distract me from that. All
right, so this is the last question for you, Patrick.
All right.
I really appreciate you coming on, man. We have to get you on again because we just barely scraped. I mean, I had every time you talk, I had 5 more questions. So we'll have to definitely get you on, but you're going to be busy.
Tyler likes to talk.
Yeah,
well, I like to listen too. Yeah.
Write them down and we'll do a rapid fire.
Yeah. So what did you expect from first of all, a podcast called CigarNoise Boys, and looking kind of like at our, my Instagram handle, Be So Horny, and kind of like, what did you expect? Was it?
So I will say this: the only show I listened to was the one you did with Danny Vasquez. I think it was the most recent one. Prior to you guys asking me if I was available to come on the show, and I really have no idea. I mean, the podcast YouTube universe is so vast at the moment that it's sort of hard to kind of get a feel for it. I think the one thing I was intrigued by, and I was talking with Dom about this, was, or both of you guys actually, was the like there seemed like there were a lot of people on the show with Danny Vasquez, and I was like, I had a really tough time like keeping track of who all was doing what, and then not to pick on anybody, but there's this weird segment where it's like, hey, Tron's here, and he's going to talk about like people keeping dead bodies in their houses, for like years. And I was like, and I'm not kidding. I was driving around, I was running errands, and I had the show on in the car, and I'm at a stoplight, and like here comes this segment about like some culture in Indonesia that keeps dead bodies in their houses. And I swear to God, I swore I saw like a rabid cow running across the intersection and jumping on my hood and then like running off. I was like, what in the hell was that? So I was expecting a lot more people, but no, I mean, look, I think, the thing is that we can all bring our own unique perspective to cigars, to the conversation. And that's what's interesting, and that's what's fun about it. And I think that's why Halfwheel it created a place. The thing that I struggle with on that is, if you want to do that, that's great. Make sure that what you're doing has sort of purpose, structure, a little bit of polish, because you don't want what you have to offer to get lost in the other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to keep people's attention. And I think that's the only thing that I always say to people is like, look, Halfwheel was not perfect when we started. We are still not perfect. We have a long ways to go. And if you want to be the one, but look, when we also started, there was like 50 or 60 blogs that were online. And I can't tell you how many of those people are no longer around. And whether that's financial, whether that's interest, whether that's just life changes. But I can tell you, like, when we started Halfwheel, the whole thing, in addition to we want to be the site we want to read, was this is Charlie and Brooks's full-time jobs. Like, running Halfwheel, running Roy Media is their full-time job. It's about a third of my full-time job. And that varies day to day. So we knew that if we wanted to do this, we had to put something out that was going to allow us to generate the income for it to be a full-time job. So I think that's sort of where I go back to people and say, if you want to just make this a fun little here and there or whatever,
yeah,
cool. If you really want to become, like, if there's 50 YouTube or podcast cigar shows right now and you want to be the one that actually is still around in 3 years, let's have that critical conversation, because I think there's room for it,
Yeah, 'cause we kind of we go back and forth kind of with the with different kinds of episodes. It's more like, I think you would really like the one we just did with Nick Melillo. It just got posted today or last night.
Okay.
If you find some time, we had Nick and Nate on, and then we did the segment with Tron. We didn't do the segment tonight, obviously, but because I knew there was going to be a lot I wanted to talk to you about. But with Tron, we try to do that every other episode, depending on the guest, kind of too.
Sure.
But we just try to kind of make people laugh, but also kind of nerd out a little bit on some stuff. So we were able to do that with Nick. We were able to nerd out and have a couple laughs here and there. So
nice. I'm going to download that right now. So
yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Patrick, and I would love to have you on again. I know it's going to be, hopefully, you're a busy man. So hopefully we can get you on sooner rather than later.
After spring training, that's all I can tell you right now.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm actually surprised you said yeah. And I'm glad that there was a little bit of structure with Dom was doing the emailing and stuff. So I appreciate that aspect too, because I do want to take this a little more serious, because we do have a lot of fun. We do joke around a lot. But for me, I just want to learn as much as I can about cigars. And that's kind of why we talked about moving earlier. I put in a transfer with Southwest, who I work for, to move to Austin, so I could kind of work a little bit with Romacraft in their warehouse there, just so I could be a sponge and just learn everything from Mike, Skip, John, and Sean, and Jamie, and all them. So
nice.
And that's what I use this for too. Is just there's so much I can learn about stuff, and I learned a lot tonight too. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Hey, that's one of the big things that we try and pride ourselves on, is that there's so much to learn about cigars and tobacco and agriculture and how they're made and how they're marketed and what goes into making it work, and the challenges that retailers face and reps face, and and just trying to bring some sort of level of understanding to the whole thing. I always say, I'm always flattered that people read the site. If there's one thing that people say to me that's like, I get a better understanding of this wonderful thing called a cigar from reading the site. And particularly that I think when you really dive into it and you go, wow, and I can get this wonderful thing called a premium hand rolled cigar for like $8 or whatever it is, like,
or 500.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's the whole range. I mean, you can do everything under the sun. But you know, to think about that saying that, you know, 300 hands or 300 sets of hands touch your cigar before it gets to you, and it's still only $8 or $10 or whatever it is. That to me is amazing. And you know, there's certainly things like wine and spirits and beer and architecture and things that I'm interested in. Like, I have no clue how you build a building, you know? I mean, I have no clue how you design it and build it and make it stand. And, you know, I have a building going up across the street from where I live right now. And there's times I'll just go outside and I will just stare at these guys pouring concrete, or, you know, watch the crane lift stuff up and how they weld stuff and how they, I mean, just all that stuff. Like, that to me is so fascinating because I have no understanding of how it works. So if I can try and be that explainer for somebody about cigars and baseball or whatever it may be, I'm more than happy to do it. And it brings a lot of pride and a lot of smiles to my face. So thank you guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I'm glad nothing went wrong, and I'm glad we were here early and got everything. It's just, I was nervous about this one, so
don't jinx it.
I know, yeah. Oh, great. Did I? All right.
The final credits having to roll. Don't jinx it yet. Yeah. Come on, Dom's sweating over there. I can see him.
He's got to do the editing.
Still got to download.
All right, Patrick. Thank you so much again, and we'll be in touch. And I'll keep checking your site 10 times a day.
Cool. My pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Rock and roll. Keep those cigars on ice.
Yeah!